Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Welcome. Um, Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join me. I'm Bruce Orr, CEO of ProNovos, and I'm a data scientist, but more than that, I am obsessed with data, profit, and cash flow. Because at the end of the day, data is only as powerful as the financial impact it creates. I'm very excited to have this webinar with you. Um, you know, I said earlier, it's as powerful as the financial impact it creates. So let me explain what I mean by that. Data in itself is just numbers, charts, and trends. It doesn't mean anything unless it drives action and improve business outcomes. In your business, that means protecting profits, optimizing cash flow, and eliminating waste. What's interesting is you can have the most sophisticated dashboards in the world, but if they don't help you win more profitable jobs, forecast more accurately, or make better financial decisions, then they're just noise. Data has to be actionable. It has to connect directly to profitability, efficiency, and overall long-term success. And that's what we focus on at ProNovos, turning data into decisions that drive businesses forward. Our mission is to give you clarity, control over your business. I think it's not about making better decisions. It's about making better and smarter decisions faster and ultimately helping you protect your profits and take your company to the next level. And again, I'm excited. All right, now it's time to introduce someone who probably knows more about construction numbers than any contractor in the country. And trust me, that's saying something. Bob Biehl has spent 35 years at GBQ. He's been focused entirely on helping contractors build stronger, more profitable businesses. He's a CPA, has his CCIFP credentials, which means he's basically the Yoda of construction finance. Bob's the guy you want in your corner when you're trying to figure out what's going right or wrong with your financials. He can walk into a room, take one look at your books, and know what kind of coffee you drink and how long you've had the backhoe sitting on the job site. Um, Seriously, though, he's about making a real difference for the people and business he serves. He's got the knowledge, the experience, and just enough sarcasm to make it interesting. So, without further ado, please welcome the one and only Bob Biehl.
Thanks, Bruce. Excited to be here, and what a great topic that I think can benefit everyone on this webinar.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so we're going to kick things off with a quick poll. I want to know who's in the room. What's your role in the company? Are you the CEO running the show? Maybe you're in operations, finance, or project management. This will help us tailor the rest of the conversation and make sure we're hitting what's most important and most relevant to you. So take a second, click your answer, and let's see what kind of powerhouse crowd we've got today. All right, they're still coming in. Well, thanks for jumping into the poll. It's always interesting to see the mix of roles in the room, and it helps us frame what's next. So let's set the stage. Let's talk about the next few years and what they might hold for our industry. If you're anything like me, you've probably been riding the business roller coaster these past few years. We're talking about supply chain issues, shifting demand, and market uncertainty. It's been a wild ride. And the big question on all of our minds is what's next? How do we get ahead of all of this and come out on top? Well, the good news is the data is pointing us in the right direction. The bad news is no one really knows what our president will do, what the courts will allow, or how the rest of the world will respond. However, here's the one thing we do know. The fundamentals in our industry remain strong. The need for housing, infrastructure, and new projects isn't going away. I mean, history tells us that businesses that prepare, plan, and adapt during these uncertain times come out stronger, more profitable, and ready to dominate. Before we dive into the details of our webinar today, let me convey a profound but um, strong message. It's an idea, and basically, it's saying that everything is a cycle. Think about it. The economy operates in cycles. We experience periods of recovery, accelerated growth, slower growth, and yes, sometimes even decline or recession. That's easy for us to understand, but it's not just about identifying where we are in the cycle. I think it's also about understanding the rate of change within that cycle. Is the growth accelerating, slowing, or plateauing? You see, the rate of change tells us how quickly or slowly we're moving, and it provides critical insights into what might come next. This idea applies to construction financial management too. If you think about it, our work isn't linear. It moves in cycles, whether it's weekly tasks like payroll and cash flow management or monthly WIP reporting. There are natural rhythms that we are familiar with, but the rate of change is equally important here. When your strategy relies on constant improvement, we need to know if we are managing certain tasks more efficiently than last month or last week. Are our projects improving their cash flow faster than expected? These changes in speed or trajectory can signal whether we're on track or need to adjust. I was hesitant to talk about this next section because I might lose some of you, but this is important to me and I need to connect with you on an individual level. The rate of change applies to life as well, right? Life is a cycle too. We start with birth, the beginning of rapid growth and learning. As we grow older, we hit our stride. This is a phase of accelerated growth where we build our careers, relationships, and families. And many of you are there now. I know it's exciting. But over time, we transition into a phase of slower growth. Sorry, I think I'm having video issues here. Let's see. All right. Over time, we transition into a phase of slower growth, focusing on reflection, mentorship, and preparing for the later stages of life. Eventually, we come full circle. We embrace the wisdom and legacy of our final years. But don't get me wrong, these later stages can be just as exciting, but through it all, the rate of change in our lives, how quickly we adapt, learn, or recover, defines the quality of each phase. I'm going to pause for a moment and let that sink in because I think that as we work, as we look at what the economy has in store for us, I think we need to also understand what does that mean to our lives. All right. For today's discussion, let's agree on 4 key stages of a cycle. We got the recovery. We know that things are going to recover, and then things are going to accelerate. So we have our accelerated growth. We have our slow growth, and then we have a decline or a recession. But let's also pay attention to the rate of change within these stages. A quick acceleration might signal a great opportunity, while a sharp decline could mean it's time to pivot. Bob, you've lived through plenty of these cycles with over what, 3 decades of experience. You've seen economic booms, downturns, you've seen technological revolutions, and I know you've seen regulatory shakeups. I know you've had to adapt and guide countless contractors through change. So I'm going to ask you, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about adapting and staying resilient in the face of constant change?
Well, I think there's two lessons. First of all, I just retired from GBQ after 37 years, so hopefully I'm not in the decline or recession stage. So maybe I just learned that. But in reality, I think the biggest thing that I've learned over my time working with contractors is change has always been there, right? It's nothing different in the history of my 37 plus years, whether it be inflation change, technology, supply change, or changing interest rates, or the countless other things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It happens all the time. And you're right, it happens in cycles. I think the thing that has been different in this last cycle is the rate of change, as you said, Bruce. Things are coming at us fast and furious, and it's hard to keep up. So I think the current challenges are different just because of the pace. The key is to make sure the company is adapting those changes and using data and information at their hands to think about where they are in your cycle, where the company is within their geographic area, and what they can do to plan for the future and make sure they implement those things for success. Because if you're not doing it, if you're not changing and adapting, your competition is, and you need to make sure that you're on top of things.
I love that. And thank you for that, Bob. I think that's very powerful insights. As always, Bob, every time I'm in the room with you, you raise the bar for the rest of us. Now let's shift gears and talk about where the industry is headed for a broader economic perspective. If you've been around construction long enough, you know there's no crystal ball. You just got data, you got trends, and of course, a lot of gut instinct. That's why, as an industry, we've accepted some leading indicators from economists to help us try and stay ahead of the curve. These indicators are like the weather forecast. They're usually right, unless they're wrong, but still way better than guessing. Here's what they're telling us today. The first indicator is the correlation between residential and non-residential. Think of it like dancing partners. When residential starts to lead, non-residential is just a few beats behind. Right now, the data shows residential housing is hitting the floor. All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the markets, because this is kind of the data that helps you stay ahead. Residential is heating up in a big way, and there are some clear reasons, and I'll give you the ones that I'm most comfortable with. Massive housing shortages. The U.S. is short millions of housing units, and developers are racing to meet demand. Two, I love this one, policy shifts, zoning reform. Cities are loosening restrictions, and they're allowing for housing expansions, including office residential conversions. And I'm not sure how you feel about return to office, but the train has left the station. Corporations have spent and are spending hundreds of millions on expanding and improving the offices for you to show up. And number three, it's favorable economic conditions. So we have lower interest rates, and they will eventually turn into lower mortgages, I promise you. Obviously, this will drive more demand. And there are two more. You got the millennial and Gen Zs. This is now the largest generation and is hitting their peak in home buying years. I think they're going to also fuel the surge. Lastly, you got the institutional investors. They're doubling down, private equity. They're making large investments in residential. But what does this mean for non-residential construction? Now, I know most of you are in non-residential, so let's talk about why this matters for you. As I said earlier, when residential booms, non-residential follows. It's a pattern we've seen over and over again, and we expect it. So more homes mean retail and mixed use growth. We need neighborhoods, we need grocery stores, all of that. Infrastructure expansion. Yeah, we've yet to see the infrastructure bill spending reach its peak. But on top of that, we got more housing means more schools. It means more hospitals, municipalities, industrial and warehouse demand. So a growing population increased the need for distribution centers and logistics hubs. I'm not sure if you know this, but the end goal that our administration has as it relates to tariffs is to bring back more manufacturing here in the US. This isn't just a slow, gradual increase, it's happening fast. From 2025 to 2030, residential construction starts are projected to increase by 23%. It's growing at an average rate of 4.6%. And non-residential, while also growing, is projected to increase by 18% over the same period. I think the key thing here is residential is pulling ahead at a faster pace. This shift is momentum. This shift is going to require us to consider how we get ready for what's to come. If you're a non-residential, start thinking about where your opportunities will be as residential surges. Now, the next indicator that I know we have came to understand and rely on is the Architectural Billings Index. And basically, it's the pulse check on the design phase of future construction. Recently, it's taken a bit of a dip, which means developers are in full-on wait-and-see mode. It's kind of like a poker game, right? No one's ready to make a big bet, but the cards are starting to look pretty good. And it's not that complicated, so there's no need to spend too much time here. Just know that we're going in the right direction as it relates to the ABI. And so finally, we've got the hard numbers. And this is what I want to talk about because this excites me. The actual forecast data from the U.S. Census Bureau and Federal Reserve Board has published these numbers, and I've taken them and I basically color-coded them according to the different phases. This is where the rubber truly meets the road. For example, education construction is projected to take a little dip on its growth rate. It's not too exciting, but not too disappointing. Meanwhile, other sectors are gearing up for the next phase, like non-residential construction is showing some really promising signs in manufacturing and warehousing, hospitals. I think that if you look at everything that's coming, you're going to see that we're getting to start feeling more comfortable about where we're at. The confidence index is looking great. So if you ever get a chance, go to CFMA's website and look at the confidence index. Look, everyone, I'm not an economist. I bailed on that path and I chose something way better. I'm a data guy. I'm a businessman who looks for opportunities to connect the dots. Based on the data, the industry is about to experience tremendous growth. And while that kind of growth brings exciting possibilities with new projects, new opportunities, it also brings some real dangers if you're not prepared. Bob, with everything you've seen over the years, what advice would you give our construction friends about navigating this next phase of growth?
Yeah, growth is great. Obviously, it beats the alternative, right? But you need to make sure it is managed. For example, more companies go out of business when they come out of a recession. I know we're not in a recession, but I want you just to think about that for a future cycle than they do in this period of growth. And the reason is that the balance sheets are stressed. We're low working capital, equity's down, and as we grow, cash flow lags. And I know Bruce is going to talk here a little later about the importance of managing your cash flow. So make sure that you're always knowing where you are in this cycle. But as far as the risk of growth during this current cycle, as we're kind of expanding our business and have been doing good for a long time, but now there's more work out there than we know what to do with, the contractor needs to make sure that it doesn't overextend itself. It's easy to take on every job out there. And even though we think we're turning things down, we end up getting all these jobs that we're not sure if we're going to be able to manage it and meet the deadlines. And that could impact relationships with owners and GCs, or poor work quality that could impact our companies in the future, right? So I think a contractor needs to make sure that we are looking where we are, we're doing a risk management profile, and then every so often, maybe every 1 to 3 years, contractors should do a strategic plan. Take a look at their business from an outside perspective and truly look at what our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities are, and make that plan to move forward. I see too many contractors not taking the time because they're so busy in this growth to take a step back to move 2 steps forward.
You know, Bob, you just laid out some great insights on strategy. And I want to take a moment to highlight what strategy is really built on, in my opinion. And I know that we've discussed this before. I think you need 3 things. You need vision, people, and tools. Vision, you need to know where you're going, and without clear direction, growth can turn into chaos. We know this. People, no strategy works without the right team, and the people who execute the plan makes all of the difference. Tools, even with the best vision and the best team, you can't win without the right tools. Now, I can't give you the vision, that's on you. I can't give you the people, that's leadership, but I can give you the tools. You know, I've worked in retail, banking, insurance, healthcare, and even gaming. You know, I spent 2.5 years flying from Vegas every week helping casinos use data to take advantage of you. It's not my proudest moment, but I've done that. But out of every industry I've been in, construction is hands down the best industry. Everything relies on construction. The schools, the hospitals, the roads, the bridges, they exist because of this industry. And without construction, nothing happens. I think construction is about getting the job done, not who you are or where you come from. When you're on the job site, the guy next to you is responsible for your safety, your success, and your survival. Everything is irrelevant. You don't need a fancy degree either. Construction is one of the few industries where hard work alone can take you from laborer to leader, even to business owner. I could have stayed in finance or tech, but I chose construction because it's about legacy. I think it's about building today what will stand tomorrow. I think it's a testament to the people who design, support, and build it. And that's why I love it. So since I started working in the industry over 10 years ago, I've had the privilege of working with hundreds of contractors along the way. One thing became clear: we're all wrestling with the same core challenges. How's my cash flow? Am I making money on this project? Why can't I get better forecasts? And one I hear all of the time: why am I still buried in spreadsheets? These are the problems most contractors everywhere are trying to solve. And don't get me started on profit fade. I'm going to say this. I get a bit upset when I hear companies talk about it like it's just a normal part of doing business. I don't think it's acceptable. We shouldn't have to normalize losing profit over the course of a project. I think fade is a signal that something's broken. Fade is a signal that something is broken with a process, a system, or visibility into what's happening in the field. And that's why I spent so much time working on solving these problems. I've spent millions developing a platform, perfecting it, revising it, adapting it to help contractors solve these problems. And, you know, it's just not about a tool, a software tool. It's built specifically for you to protect profits. And now I just want to share, if we're going to talk about strategy, I want to share how this tool can help you gain clarity. So, all right, since we've been talking about strategy, let's dive into one of the 15 analytics. This one focuses on project profit. Every job should have project profit, because if you can't see where you're making or losing money, it's almost impossible to win. This tool looks at every single project, and your team have chased, you bidded on, you've labored over, and you've taken risks on these projects. It takes hundreds of thousands of data points and distills them down into something simple and actionable. What's even better, it's designed to filter and drill into what matters most to you, whether it's project size, location, client, manager. You can even track how your project manager's performance has evolved and spot early warning signs. Is one PM getting consistently better results, or is there a red flag you need to address? This isn't about tracking data. I think it's about turning it into a strategy. For example, you can use this dashboard to identify your most profitable project types and double down on what works. You can optimize project manager assignments by seeing who consistently delivers strong results. You might need to right size your bids by analyzing the ideal project size for your business. Bob, you've guided contractors through cycles like this before. If I'm that contractor that is looking at possibly going into an area that is having slower growth, what advice would you give me on how to navigate and prepare for the slowdown?
Well, I think the key point is you said right after that, you're identifying it early, right? So once you identify it early, you have time to do something about it. When I was a young CPA, I had a client that I went out to a contractor. He did a whiteboard, and on the whiteboard, he drew a line from the upper left down to the bottom right. I said, okay. Then he drew a line, right underneath it, maybe an inch, the same thing, from the top left down to the bottom right. And I said, what is that? And he said, this is the line, the top line's revenue, the bottom line's cost. And as long as revenue is above cost, you're okay. And well, I said, well, that makes sense, but too many people don't think about it that way. So the first thing you need to do is think about, is a slow growth going to be a short-term issue where you can kind of ride it out, or more of a long-term issue? And if it's more of a long-term issue, you need to adapt and plan for what that means. Do we have to make expense reductions? Do we need to maybe look at a different line of business? Do we need to go to different geographic region? All of which, has its own risk themselves. But I think the key to whatever you have slowing of growth, and we really saw this in summer, whether it be COVID or the recessions of like 2010, 11, or 12, where everyone was panicking, you need to have a plan. And you need to have a plan with different scenarios that if our business goes down by 25% by this date or 50% by this date, this is what we're going to do. And don't get me wrong, these decisions are hard, and no one wants to do them because our people that work for us are our family, and we want to take care of them. But it's easier to make those hard decisions if you're living this plan on a day-to-day basis and you've lived it for maybe 3 months, as opposed to just saying, oh crap, I need to cut business, right? So as long as we're planning and not reacting, it makes it a hard situation easier.
Yeah, no, that's again great insights. Thank you, Bob. Now that we talked about building a strategy using data, the next step is to put that strategy into action by focusing on forecasting. Strategy without reliable forecasting is like driving without a GPS. You might know where you want to go, but without a clear route, you'll take wrong turns and hit unexpected roadblocks. Especially in today's environment, things can change in an instant. One day you're cruising along, and the next day, boom, new tariffs hit out of nowhere. And they're imminent, right? Suddenly your material costs 20% more and everything shifts. How do you respond in a dynamic way that still gives you confidence as a leader? You need to know where you stand today and how to adjust for tomorrow. So a solid forecast helps you spot potential risks earlier, prepare for change, and most importantly, stay in control of your business. Let's go to our forecasting innovation suite. I'm going to walk you through 3 areas of forecasting that are absolutely essential. Revenue forecasting, because if you don't know how much work is coming in and when you're flying, then you're just flying blind. Cash flow forecasting, so you can anticipate cash crunches before they happen and plan accordingly. And a reliable WIP schedule, one that you can trust to give you accurate, up-to-date visibility into project performance. When these three pieces work together, you're not just reacting to problems, you're proactively managing your business. You're staying ahead of risks and maximizing your profits. So let's start with revenue forecasting. This is one of the most critical parts of your strategy. If you're not staying on top of it, you're leaving too much to chance. Revenue forecasting isn't just about predicting what's coming in, it's about managing growth and profitability with clarity. What we're looking at here is earned revenue. This will give you a clearer picture of revenue performance over time. It'll help you track trends and adjust your strategy as needed. Let's break it down. So set your revenue target. In the top left, this is where you set your revenue goal for the year. This is where strategy kicks in. Your target reflects your ambition. This tool helps you monitor your progress towards that goal. See where you stand. Your total projected revenue is displayed just below the target. So it combines your backlog, prospective jobs, and year-to-date revenue. It's a quick way to see where you are and how much ground you still need to cover. Again, I love this because it clearly tells me if my backlog is slipping, I might need to bid on more jobs to hit my target. There's a visual trajectory. So the graph shows your actual earned revenue compared to your target. If you're trailing, it's time to recalibrate your approach and focus on landing more work. If you're tracking ahead, you're building a strong position for your future growth. At the bottom, the table provides a month-by-month breakdown of backlog, prospective jobs, and miscellaneous revenue. It's where you get into the details. Are you balanced, or do you need to bolster your pipeline? The real power here is how you can connect the big picture to granular details and make a strategic adjustment if you need to. And this is where rate of change becomes your best friend. Ask yourself, how fast are you gaining on your target? Are you seeing steady acceleration or have you plateaued? This tool helps you anticipate what's coming, adjust your strategy, and stay ahead when you have visibility like this. You're not just managing, you're leading your business, I think, with intention and confidence. All right. Now,
Bruce.
let's talk about,
Bruce.
yeah, sure.
There's a quick question I think that you need to answer right now. Where's the
Okay.
data? Where's the data pulling from? How do you identify what the prospective jobs are and their value?
Yeah, so the data right now is basically being entered into the system. You enter whatever data that you need. But if you have data in Excel, it'll pull it in. If you have data in CRM, we could pull it in. So the origination of the data is an easy one. Once the data's in, you're golden. Thanks for that, Bob. I did not see that. All right. Okay. So, all right. So we talked about revenue and now we're on to cash flow. Without it, your business isn't moving anywhere, right? So we know that you can have the biggest backlog in the world, but if the cash isn't flowing in, I think you're in trouble. And I'm sure we've all been there before. That's why we built this 13-week cash flow tool so you can stay ahead of the curve. This isn't just about knowing your balance today, it's about forecasting where your cash is heading in the weeks ahead. It gives you the ability to anticipate shortfalls. I think it's going to help you make smarter decisions. And again, I'm a business owner. I sleep better at night when I know I'm in a great cash position. And the best part of it is it's fully automated. Like the question we asked, where's the data coming from? This isn't new. It's not earth-shattering. It does provide levels of sophistication that sets you apart in the eyes of bankers and sureties. Let's break it down and see the simplicity of it. All right, so you got inflows and outflows. Automatically tracks AR, AP using a mixture of logic from payment terms, what history tells us, and also incorporating feedback from the field. So there's no manual guessing. You got your current cash balance and forecasted cash flow. So you know exactly where you stand and when you need to inject more capital. If there's anything else you need to add, you have Excel-like power that lets you add whatever you need. I mean, it's all laid out for you in one place It's taking the guesswork out of the equation. I think it's powerful, but it's not just a snapshot of today. This tool helps you see your cash flow trends over time. Remember the rate of change. This is where it becomes, I think, a game changer. You're not just seeing your cash flow balance, you're watching how it's accelerating or slowing down week by week. You got to ask yourself, are inflows picking up speed? Is an outflow spike coming in 2 weeks that you need to plan for now? Having this level of visibility means you're not just reacting week by week. I think you're thinking months ahead and building a long-term cash flow strategy. All right, we've covered revenue, forecasting, and cash flow, but now we're getting to the grand finale. And trust me, I've saved the best for last in this forecast innovation suite. We're stepping into the WIP. I'm not going to say WIP schedule. I'll call it the WIP command center. This isn't just another WIP report. It's a strategic control hub for you. The place where every project's financial health is laid bare. It should give you unmatched clarity on how your jobs are performing. If revenue forecasting is your strategy and cash flow is your survival tool, then the WIP command center is your competitive advantage. And the best part, it's like there's no waiting, there's no stale reports. This is up to date and fully interactive. So let's dive in and see how this WIP command center can change the way you run your business. All right. So in the WIP command center, we have aggregated all the jobs that still need your attention. These jobs, the jobs that are in the table below that we're seeing are displayed. And it shows you the things that you need to focus on, right? So if you think about it, this information is taking a lot of data points and it's going to help you immediately go to what stands out. This color coding is wonderful. As a matter of fact, if we wanted to know more about a particular job, we have a flyout window. And here's where it gets really, really serious, right? So most of you aren't in the weeds every day. I know you're all leaders, but you still need to know what the hell is happening with the jobs. The good, you need to know the bad and the ugly. With this flyout window, you get the full story on every job, not just a snapshot. You get details because we know they matter. Here's the kicker. This is where strategy turns into real leadership. With this level of clarity, you just don't react to problems. You have an opportunity to take control, teach, coach, hold people accountable. You course correct before fade happens, not after. Let's take this a step further and see where these projections are coming from and how we can get even better clarity. All right, so I'm going to be out of character a little bit on here. So this isn't not like me, but I got to say it. I'm going to put Procore on blast. I said it. Sure, they can forecast, but guess what? They're forecasting the same way we've done it for decades. And what keeps happening? Projects still fade. And worse, you don't even know why it's happening. Inaccurate forecasting is the difference between hitting your targets or missing them completely. It can make or break your strategy. And one bad forecast, and you're in a tailspin and you're scrambling to recover. I've seen it happen over and over again. The way you forecast here doesn't just predict, it protects. It holds teams accountable and keeps your strategy on track. This isn't about guessing where you're going to end up. It's about knowing where you're headed and how to get there. Let me show you how it works. Let's break down the top section of the forecast module. It's just not a bunch of random colors. Everything is laid out beautifully for a purpose. I've seen many dashboards, charts, and graphs that look cool. They look flashy, but they overload people with data and it confuses the hell out of you. That's not what this is. Every piece of information here matters, and it's about helping your PMs focus on what drives project success. So we've thoughtfully chosen and given you an immediate understanding of the health of the project. But If the strategy requires your PMs to focus on something outside the default setup, you got to customize it because you need to know that you can give your PMs what they're comfortable with. But there are two things I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change the root cause, and I wouldn't change the forecast tracker. Finally, there's this whip check. You got to ask, are your forecasts in sync with the whip values that leadership is reviewing? If they're not, that might be a red flag that you're either out of alignment or missing critical data. It's not, this tool isn't just about tracking numbers. I think it's about creating clear, accountable, adaptable strategies. So, if you look at this tool is where things get real. So you'll see down below, you'll see what we said we did. That's the budget. You'll see where we are now, your job to date cost, and where we're headed, your final cost. And once again, the colors, they mean something. You got to pay attention to them. Um, you know, I think that when you consider the different methods of adjusting, you have to be able to adjust either by hours, quantity, or percent complete. You got to do what's most comfortable for your PMs. Now, if you're a GC that doesn't self-perform, you know which method makes the most sense for your projects. But if you're self-performing, your strategy should lean toward quantities first, then hours, and finally costs as a fallback. The key point here is flexibility. That's all I'm saying. You need to forecast the right way. I think that the point of this tool is profit gain. You're here to find money, improve production rates, and fine tune the process. Um, let's say that I'm above average. I'm above average PM, and I want to see something that's advanced. Then I need to know what the advance looks like to me. In this section, we got everything that we need. We have more things that will allow me to forecast against budget rates, production rates, all of the above. When we talk about the cash flow and the revenue forecast, and we talk about this particular project forecast, I think that what we're seeing and what we're talking about are components of something that should help you influence your strategy. I got to say also, Bob, you've seen this firsthand in terms of companies forecasting. What challenges have you seen?
Well, typically, I don't see a lot of companies forecasting, right? I see them putting together a budget that's pretty static, that's not integrated with their ERP system. I don't see companies, unless they're required by their bonding company, doing a 13-week cash flow. And that is one of the requests me as a CPA gets more than anything else from a bonding company, is they want to see a 13-week cash flow forecast, especially when things are tight, whether it's accelerated growth or in the middle of a bad times. And then the biggest thing I don't see is I see people using the WIP schedule to recognize revenue and to provide it to their CPA and to their surety at the end of the year. I don't see it as a tool to manage your business with all the information that is out there. I also think that the best time to do forecasting is when things are good. That's when because it takes time to get better at it, and then when you do it when things are bad, it's just too reactionary. So the thing I like about this is it's so interactive with your ERP system, and it's not requiring lots and lots of extra time and energy other than as you're in there managing the project.
That's right, Bob. I again, when I think of strategy, I think of a lot of different things, but so far we've covered how these workflows are designed and how to eliminate inefficiencies. I think that we bring clarity, accountability, and strategy together in one place. But at the end of the day, tools and processes is only as good as the people who use them. When these workflows are implemented and used consistently within an organization, what are the real tangible results you expect companies to see? Bob, I'm going to lean on you again. When you see things cohesively orchestrate and work together, what is it that you see?
Well, what I see is a direction that the company knows that they're getting good information. And when you have good information, you can make decisions based on what your company is good at, what they're bad at, what direction you want to go. And that's really what this is all about. All this information and data is about providing something for the strategic leadership, the owners, the CEO, COO, whoever it is, to take and run their company in a direction that they see fit.
I love it. I love it. All right. Now let's recap. Let's take a step back and recap some of the key takeaways from the day. We talked about economic trends. We know opportunities are out there, but success depends on where and how you focus your efforts. We talked about data-driven strategies, forecasting tools. We talked about being savvy with the PMs, and then there's so much more that we could have talked about in these 45 minutes, but I will say let's be real. This is part of the webinar where I asked for your business, right? It's it was coming. I knew it was coming, so let's lean into it. If you want to talk and you want to learn more about ProNovos, please fill out the poll, schedule time with me. I love to talk. I love this stuff, and I love to talk to you and learn more about what you're working with. And don't just take my word for it. Our clients can tell you for themselves they've implemented ProNovos and they've seen the results. These companies took action and they are thriving. So if the wheels are spinning and you're picking up what I'm putting down, let's talk. No pressure. If you're ready to explore how ProNovos can help, I'm here. All right. So I think that we are getting to the end of our conversation here. I know there's a lot of questions I didn't get a chance to get to, and I apologize if I don't get to them.
You want me to read a couple of them, Bruce?
Yeah, please.
There's just a couple in the chat box.
All right.
Does this integrate with Acumatica?
Yes, sir. Fully, best integration you ever see. What's the next one?
So you're integrated with most construction software.
Most soft. We got the US covered. Again, we spent a lot of time on this, perfecting it.
And then the next question, maybe we talked about a little bit, but it probably deserves a little bit more clarity. Is the goal here to ignite conversation with stakeholders to form mitigation strategies, or is there a scenario planning tool, a what-if analysis?
It's both, actually. I love that. I love the question. It's both. I think that the conversations that you have with leadership has to come from the performance. It has to come from your vision. And oftentimes it comes from what you've done in the past and where we're headed as a country. And the what if scenarios, you got to continue to do that throughout the life cycle of your strategy. No pun intended.
I think that's it. That's all the questions now.
All right. Well, if we go to the next slide, I just want to talk about some upcoming webinars. March 7th, we got the Queen's Gambit. This is about women in construction. We're bringing a incredible, powerful group of ladies together. And on March 26th, I'm very fortunate to deliver a webinar with Carl from Grassi, very effective speaker. I love for you to join us. I want to say thank you for your time. I hope that you got something out of this, and I look forward to a conversation with you. So please reach out to me. Bob, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.